If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or marketer and you're using Instagram or even thinking about using Instagram to market your business, you cannot afford to miss this episode. Because today I'm talking about Instagram marketing, but not the way you've been doing it. A better way, a more effective way, and a way more profitable way. After nearly a decade of doing social media marketing and running a number of different very successful agencies, this is the best way to do Instagram marketing. Hey there, Erhart here, marketing strategist, and welcome to The Marketing Show. Alright, it is no secret and no surprise that Instagram is one of the most popular social media networks to ever grace this planet. Here's the deal. As of today, Instagram has over 1 billion users. That's billion with a B. And it's got over 500 million daily users who log on and check things like their stories. People are also spending an insane amount of time on the platform, with the average user currently logging about 28 minutes per day on Instagram. And if you're convinced or you have the notion that your target market just isn't active or present on Instagram, I'd like to argue against that because it's a pretty equal split between men and women, something we've seen change over the last couple years. But here's where things get really interesting for you as a business owner or an entrepreneur or a marketer. When surveyed, 75% of businesses said that they're planning on using Instagram to market their business into this next year. So if you're in the 75% of businesses who've decided to use Instagram to market your business moving forward, well then we need to make sure that you're doing it right. And if you're in the 25% of businesses who've decided to put off Instagram marketing for maybe another day, well, we need to make sure that you're making the best and the most strategic and the most logical decision. And hopefully by going through this video, you'll be able to decide if it's right for you and possibly switch over. But seeing as you're here now, I'm going to safely assume that you are interested in learning how to maximize your results using Instagram to better market your business, to get more results, to get more leads, more customers, more sales, and grow your revenue. So with all that said, let's dive in, starting with the basics. All right, so when it comes to Instagram marketing, one of the very first things that you need to do to make sure that you're putting your business forward in the best light possible is to optimize your bio. This is kind of like your business's homepage or website, I guess, in regards to Instagram. So this is the place where your users and your followers and your audience can go and they can learn a little bit more about you. So you really need to make sure that you've optimized this and you're putting your best foot forward. After all, as they say, you never get a second chance to make a good first impression. You really want to make sure that you're covering all your bases here and you're giving people a really compelling, really valuable reason that they would want to follow you and that they would want to engage with you and consume your content. The most important thing here is to accurately and compellingly describe what you do and why someone should care. You really want to be empathetic to your ideal target market and to your audience and try to understand, all right, what value would they get from following your account and from consuming your content, and then make sure that you're spelling it out really clearly so they have a compelling reason. Also, make sure to give them a call to action, or CTA, which is going to explain what you want them to do next if they want to learn a little bit more about you or a little bit more about your brand or your business. All right, the next thing that you need to understand when it comes to Instagram is while there's a number of different features, including the ability to go live and a separate app entirely now on IGTV, the two main things that you want to focus on are feed and stories. The feed is what most people associate with Instagram. It's the grid that you see, it's what people typically scroll through, it's what is tending to be a little more polished, a little more professional, and you want to spend a little more time here posting probably at least one time a day to your feed. The other side of the coin is the stories feature. These are those vertical types of content. They only last for a little bit. They are a lot more raw, a lot more authentic, tend to be a lot more engaging, certainly what we're seeing right now. And you want to create probably as many of these as you can. So to say 3 to 5 a day is probably conservative, but fortunately they don't need to be as polished. They don't need to be as beautiful. They just need to be some kind of value or a behind the scenes look at your business or at your day-to-day life. All right, the next Instagram marketing basic I need to make sure you understand is the hashtags. Now, hashtags are really just a way of categorizing or essentially allowing your content to be found for certain keywords or certain content themes. So it's really hard for me to just give you a broad recommendation of which hashtags are best because it's going to be very subjective on your business, on your industry, and most specifically on what kind of content your ideal target market most wants to consume. For example, let's say you have a digital marketing agency. Well, you're going to want to include hashtags like marketing and digital marketing strategy, digital marketing tips, maybe SEO, maybe Facebook ads, and so on. Now, what's important to know here is that you do need to do a sufficient amount of research because all the hashtags that I just listed are very competitive. They're very broad hashtags with a lot of volume to them. So you want to do something called long tail hashtags, long tail keywords, which allows you to get a little more focused and a little more niche down and really find the specific types of content that not as many people are searching for that you'll have a higher chance of ranking for. A good general rule is to include a variety of different hashtags with your post. Some very competitive, some medium competitive, and some not very competitive at all, which will give your content the greatest chance of success. All right, the next thing you need to understand with Instagram is that timing really does matter. So when you post your content is going to make a big impact on what kind of people see it and how many people see it and whether the algorithm decides to push it out to more people or just hold it back and not show it to anyone. Now again, just like hashtags, the time of day, the day of the week, all of those things are really going to vary and be dependent on your target market and including your geography and what part of the world that you're in. See, different people are going to log on to Instagram and consume content at different times. So you really want to dive into your analytics, you really want to try to understand your audience and figure out the best times and the best days to post your content on, which will give it the greatest likelihood of success. Here's a general rule that pretty much applies to every single social media network and definitely Instagram, in that the closer to the time of the post, the more important and the more weighted it is. Meaning that the first 30 minutes of a post are the most important and they'll give the algorithm all the signals that yes, people like this, we should show it to more. Followed by the next 60 minutes. Again, if a lot of people are still consuming the content and engaging with it, they'll show it to even more people. And then the next 24 hours and the next 7 days, and then it kind of falls off a cliff. This is why one of the greatest predictors of success for pretty much any social media content is how it's going to react in the first 30 minutes, the first 60 minutes, and the first few hours. So anything you can do to increase engagement, to get it in front of more people, to share it, to make sure that people know when you're posting, all of that is going to help. All right, another important thing that you need to understand when it comes to marketing your business on Instagram are the two different paths that you can take. The organic path, which pretty much everybody talks about, and the paid path, which not enough people talk about because it's really the more powerful path. But more on that later. You see, when it comes to almost any social media network, there's always those two different ways you can go. You can go the organic route, which is the free route, basically posting all sorts of different content and not putting any money behind it, just posting and hoping for the best. Or you can go the paid way, which is running Instagram ads, or on Facebook, it would be Facebook ads, or YouTube, it'd be YouTube ads. You get the picture. There's a time and a place for both strategies, but it is important to understand, especially when we're talking about Instagram, that Instagram is so incredibly competitive. It's so saturated that the organic reach is just really limited compared to where it used to be. So if you really want to go out there and develop a killer strategy that's going to reach more people and impact more people and grow your business, you're probably going to want to take a look at Instagram ads sooner than later. All right, so now that you've got the basics covered, it's time to move on to Instagram marketing tools. See some of the tools that are available at your disposal to help grow your business and really leverage the true power of Instagram. Well, seeing as we just talked about the difference between organic and paid, there's probably no better tool to talk about right now than the Facebook Ads Manager. Now I can hear you saying, Adam, I thought this video is about Instagram. Why are you talking about Facebook? Well, it's no surprise that Facebook owns Instagram. They bought it years ago for an exorbitant amount of money, and this is both a good and a bad thing. Actually, from where I sit, it's really just a good thing. Because what this allows us to do is really look at Facebook for clues and for evidence of what's going to happen next on Instagram. And sure enough, by tracking Facebook and by watching the limited reach and by watching the proliferation of ads, well, we've really been able to see that, all right, this is coming to Instagram. And if you're able to get ahead of the trend, well, you can really ride this wave all the way to the end. Specifically though, the main tool that I want you to focus on here is Facebook Ads Manager. Because if you do want to run Instagram advertising, you will have to do it through the Facebook Ads Manager. Because again, Facebook owns Instagram. And again, the beauty of this is that the Facebook Ads Manager is one of the most robust and yet at the same time, one of the most simple and easy to use ad platforms available today. You've just got an incredible amount of targeting options and copy options and design options. Really, there's nothing quite as simple as doing it. So if you want to run Instagram ads, you're going to need a Facebook Ads Manager account. And then all you have to do is go in, create your ad, and then select Instagram as the placement rather than Facebook. Though it could be argued that you may want to try some Facebook ads as well, but that's another story for another day. All right, the next tool that I need to share with you is something that I'm going to call schedulers or planners. And there are a ton of them out there. And really, it's tough to say which ones are better than the others because they're all going to be great in certain areas and they're all going to have drawbacks and limitations in other areas. So my advice here is to really just test out a whole bunch and find out which one works best for you and your flow and your business and the way you like to do things. These are tools like Planoly and Hootsuite and Buffer and Sprout Social and essentially anything that allows you to upload content in a separate piece of software and schedule it and design it, and then that'll go and upload it to Instagram for you. The beauty here is that it really allows you to stay on top of your content. It allows you to design a really nice looking grid. It allows you to schedule things so you never really fall behind. And a lot of them have community management. So you can respond to comments, you can engage with your following, you can upload videos or posts or whatever you need all in one easy to use location. The plus side is that they do make organization and community management a little bit easier. The downside is you're going to require a separate piece of software, which can often be cumbersome and kind of confusing and can often get in the way of doing what you're trying to do, which is just create really good content and engage with your followers. Over the years, I've used almost every single one that is out there. I've tried them all. None of them are amazing. All of them are pretty good. So my advice again is really just try them and see which works best for you. All right, the other two tools that I want to make sure you know about are CANVA and Photoshop, both a free version and a paid version. Now, when it comes to creating content for Instagram, probably no surprise here, it's got to be pretty. It's got to be visually appealing. It's got to look good. Maybe not as good as it used to have to look because we're starting to move into more of an authentic and raw kind of image, but it still has to look professional. So how do you do that? Well, this is where tools like CANVA and or Photoshop come into play. CANVA is a great tool. It's free to use. You can create graphics and quote cards and all sorts of stuff that makes your stuff look really good. And of course you have Photoshop, which while not free, certainly isn't incredibly expensive, but does have a much steeper learning curve, but gives you just an amazing amount of freedom and the ability to create all kinds of different content. My recommendation here is if you're just getting started, definitely take a look at CANVA. But if you've been at it a while, you're familiar with CANVA and you really want to take it to the next level, take a look into Photoshop and just see if it works with your workflow. All right, so now that we've got all that covered, let's take a look at exactly how Instagram works so you can better understand the secrets and the technology and the infamous algorithm behind the platform so you can leverage it to the best of your ability. So the first and single most important thing that you need to understand about Instagram is that the entire platform, like most social media platforms, is governed by the algorithm. Now, the algorithm is really just a weird math equation that kind of runs behind the scenes that analyzes thousands, if not millions, of different variables trying to put the right content in front of the right people. That's it. Like, seriously, that's really it. And once you understand that the goal of the algorithm is to put the right stuff in front of the right people to get them to spend the absolute most amount of time on the platform possible, well, your entire strategy can change along with your mindset so that you can approach all of your Instagram marketing with that one single intention. How can I create content that engages the audience and gets them to consume as much as possible so they spend as long on Instagram as humanly possible? Which, as I mentioned before, right now is around 28 minutes a day, but it's only climbing. Now, the morality of this, the ethics, the discussions and deliberations on how this is destroying today's attention spans and the youth's ability to concentrate and focus, that's irrelevant. I mean, it might be a conversation for another video, but when it comes to marketing your business, you really want to leverage all the tools at your disposal, which means creating really bingeable content. Unfortunately, because the algorithm is such a complicated beast, well, really figuring it out is kind of complicated too. Also, it changes all the time. Yay! Which means as soon as you think you've cracked the code, well, it's gonna change again, which means the single best thing you can do to really master the algorithm is to watch and to learn and to experiment and then to analyze. Try to figure out what kind of content works best for you, what kind of content works best for your colleagues and your competitors. Really try to consume as much as you can and try to understand the trends or the features or whatever it is that they're doing that's increasing their reach and allowing them to get in front of more people. And then do that. So once you understand that the algorithm is really the one in charge, it really is in your best interest to understand not only how it works, but also understand what it doesn't like and really never try to play outside of the rules, never try to game the system or find any hacks or tricks or things that Instagram just isn't gonna like, because they'll punish you for it. Again, we're seeing the same thing happen over on the Facebook side, with all kinds of different ad accounts getting banned and shut down and ads getting disabled because people are pushing the terms of service just a little bit too hard. And they're really cracking down because they've come under a lot of heavy fire in the past for all sorts of questionable things. But regardless, just follow the rules and you'll do a whole lot better. Really what this comes down to is just not trying to beat the system. No spammy tactics, no using automated bots, no follow, unfollow, none of those tactics that really look bad to everybody. Not just Instagram, but to your audience and to your clients and customers as well. So obviously step one is understanding the terms of service, understanding what you are allowed to do and are not allowed to do, and then making sure you don't do what you're not allowed to do. But the other side kind of circles back to what I talked about originally there, which is analyzing and understanding, seeing what kind of content works best so you can design more stuff like that. You see, Instagram really wants you to succeed. That's what a lot of people don't understand, is that it's in their best interest that your stuff does well, and they're giving you cues and clues all the time. After all, when you create a post and they show it to more people, well, that's a clue that what you've just done worked really well. And if you create content and they show it to nobody, again, that's a clue that what you've just done doesn't work so well, so you might want to try something else. It sounds so incredibly basic, yet you'd be amazed how many people miss this mark. And again, this is why it does pay to have that basic marketing understanding, to do a little bit of research into customer behavior and consumer psychology, and all the kind of nerdy marketing stuff that really makes your Instagram strategy that much more effective. All right, so with all that said, it's time to talk about what I believe is the single most valuable part of the entire Instagram marketing ecosphere, which is Instagram advertising. Like I mentioned earlier, because Instagram is so popular and it's so saturated and there's just so many people out there creating so much content, it really is hard to compete organically. Meaning, if you just create content and don't put any money behind it, the odds of it reaching all of your people are basically zero, and even most of your people are pretty much slim to none. Now, a lot of people get angry about this. They complain and they moan and they leave the platform altogether. But this is the complete wrong strategy because Instagram's a business. And the beauty is that the more people complain and get angry, well, the less people that are going to be using Instagram ads, which means you're still going to be able to find some really good bargains there and be able to show your stuff to a whole lot more people for pennies on the dollar when compared to traditional advertising. So let's dive into Instagram ads now, starting with the 4 different types of Instagram ads that you can run. Number 1 is just a pretty basic photo ad. If you've never ran an Instagram ad before, this is a great place to start. Just start with a really good post that looks like it belongs on Instagram organically. Make sure you've got a good call to action because there's no point running ads that doesn't lead anybody anywhere. And then put a few dollars behind it by going through the Facebook Ads Manager, which is a huge thing you want to do here. Anytime you're running ads, make sure you're designing them from the ground up through the Facebook Ads Manager. It gives you way more control, way more flexibility, and way more accountability. Next up, you've got video ads. If you're a little more experienced or you don't mind being on video, video's a great tool to use. Whether we're talking about the vertical video or the square video or whatever other kind of formats they're going to come out with later, video just is a great tool if you can't be face-to-face or in person with somebody. Next up, you've got carousel ads or multi-photo ads or essentially any combination that's going to allow you to put a whole lot of media into one single ad. These are great if you're doing e-commerce or you're selling physical products or you have a number of different services or you even want to tell a story. So if this is something that you've never played around with before, it's a great way to kind of get in there and start playing around a little bit to see if it can deliver good results for your business. And then you have stories ads. These are ads that appear in stories, obviously, and they're currently my favorite kind of Instagram ad to be running. Again, I don't know why, but they're still so incredibly cost effective when compared to almost every other kind of ad out there. Maybe not after everybody watches this video, but at least for now, it's a great tool to use. Okay, so now that we've got that covered, here's how to set up your very first Instagram in 6 simple steps. Number 1, like I covered before, you need to do it through the Facebook Ads Manager. So if you don't have a Facebook Ads account, now's a great time to get one. Number 2 is to choose your objective. What are you trying to achieve with this ad? Are you going for a conversion or a lead magnet download? Are you trying to get traffic or engagement or whatever? Number 3 is to really hone in on your ideal target market and your targeting for the ad. Things like demographic details like your target market's age, gender, occupation, title, things like that. Their geographic details like what city or state or province or country they live in. And their psychographic details like what are their attitudes or their interests or what kind of content do they consume or other pages do they like. After that, you're going to want to pick your placement, which is where your ad is going to show up. Now, we're going through the Facebook Ads Manager, so obviously you're going to want to pick Instagram, but from there you're going to choose between the feed or the stories, let's say. From there, you're going to set your budget and your schedule. The beauty with this is you can start with as little as a few bucks a day. Maybe 5 to 10 is probably a decent place to get started so you can at least get some data back, because if you're running a really small budget, it's gonna be a long time before you see any results and you really won't know what's working and what's not. And then the final step is to create your ad. This has to do with what you're gonna say, what it's gonna look like, the design, and all the stuff that goes into it. When that's all done, all you have to do is publish, and you've created your first Instagram ad. Congratulations. All right, the next thing you're gonna wanna do is check out the video I have linked up right here on Instagram marketing for small business, which is the next piece of the puzzle. So check it out now, and I'll see you in the next episode. Consistency, clarity, and congruence. Consistency means that you're applying a regular schedule, meaning you're posting regularly, you're checking in regularly.